Cool.
All right, we're live. What's up, ninjas? My guest today is Charmaine Ironside. Me and Charmaine go way back. We were like OGs in the fitness game. It's probably like 7, 8, 9. Must be like almost 10 years that we've known each other.
Yeah, 9 or 10.
9 or 10 years. She is a fitness professional based out of Calgary. She had her studio, Ironside Fitness, which she actually closed down, unfortunately. But we're going to talk about that a little bit. But she's actually pivoted her business online to help transform people's lives. She had Olympic dreams of becoming an Olympic snowboarder. I'll talk about that a little bit. But injury forced her out. But she regained it, was able to get into fitness and help inspire people. Charmaine, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Joe.
My pleasure.
Excited to be here.
She was originally on my podcast years ago when I had one. And it's like you're a return guest.
That's a great honor.
One of the few return guests. Charmaine, let's take it back. Let's take it back on how you got started in fitness and health.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a little bit my Olympic kind of story, and I was on the Canadian national team for half-pipe snowboarding and just had a big passion for movement and being really physical with the body. And unfortunately, on my path to the Olympics, I had a huge crash, burst my 212 vertebrae, broke some other vertebrae, and was almost paralyzed. So needless to say, that kind of ended the Olympic dream. And I spent quite a bit of time rehabilitating from that. And I took a lot of my passion for movement, but also I realized how important it was to help people move their bodies better after all the injuries I had endured as a snowboarder. So I kind of took that and started as a personal trainer. And yeah, I just shifted over the years into more of a group training, and just the deepest purpose for me is just helping people enjoy moving their bodies and feel good about themselves.
Love it. So you mentioned you struggled with weight loss yourself. You've actually struggled for years with this. You want to touch on that a little bit too as well? Because you weren't always, was this before your Olympic dreams or was it after?
Yeah, I mean, I struggled with my weight, I'd say starting around age 12. And, maybe not even so much. There wasn't really a problem with my weight at that age, but I thought there was a problem. Some people could relate to that. And then I actually really became overweight in my mid-20s and struggled a lot, gained and lost hundreds of pounds. I've done over 30 different diets. And for me, my biggest weight struggle was because I was an emotional stress eater. Some people can relate to that, eating when I was stressed or frustrated or tired or sad. And so it was a long journey to really get to the bottom of that. And I still do it sometimes. I still eat emotionally, but I've come a long way with that. And that's been my biggest key for ending my struggle with my weight, was realizing it wasn't that I needed a better diet. It was that I had to figure out why I was eating.
Right. So you could probably relate to a lot of the clients. Is that typically the type of clients that you work with right now?
I definitely focus just on women who want to really feel amazing in their own skin. And I mean, I would say probably 50% of the people I work with can really identify with struggling with stress eating, emotional eating. So it's definitely a prevalent thing. I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it, and they joke about it, but they don't realize that it could be the key to their success, is getting to the bottom of it.
Right.
Because there's some shame around it,
Sure.
Nobody really wants to admit that they're eating a pint of ice cream every night or things like that.
And that's really interesting, coming from a trainer who's been doing this so many years, and you being transparent with the struggles that you've had. Like, I can imagine somebody who's not in the industry and just being like, sitting there at home wallowing and not talking to anybody about it. Like, how do you get people to talk about it and actually confront the issue of the emotional eating?
It's sort of like mask. I don't know if you ever heard the analogy of like when you're trying to get your dog to take a pill, you like mask it in ham or something. But it's like, okay, let's talk about like stress eating, because everybody stress eats, or, things like that. Or had you ever snack at night when you're bored? And it's like most people can identify with that. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe there's something deeper than just boredom. And so it's kind of breaking the ice with like more of a something everyone can relate to, and then taking it deeper if people want to go there.
Yeah, peeling the onion a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you struggled with this, and you decided to make a career out of this. Opened up your fitness studios. Talk about Ironside Fitness.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, well, almost 10 years ago, kind of started Ironside Fitness. Rented out a dance studio and did group training out of there. And then about 7 years ago, opened the first standalone location. And then 6 months after that, opened the second. And that was when I knew you then. And just basically transformation center. We help people with nutrition, fitness, all of that. I know you help people with their whole lifestyle as well. Did it for had our own locations for almost 7 years. I think we had about 21 staff. That ebbed and flowed a little bit, but kind of COVID hit in mid-March, and we were not in the best financial position as a business to weather that storm. And so in April, it became pretty apparent for us that we weren't going to be able to survive through the shutdown. We were not taking payments during the shutdown, and maybe, in retrospect, there's things we could have done differently, but it all happened quite fast. And basically since that decision, I shifted to an online virtual platform, and a lot of people are loving that and adopting into that. And I'm just dealing with the emotions around the end of an era, I guess you could say, a lot of grief, and saying goodbye to a lot of people, and the physical locations.
It hits me in the heart when you talk about it, because me and you were in similar situations, 2 locations, spent nearly a decade building it up, and it's unfortunate this pandemic hit, and all those, so much, like, just the business is the business, but it's the relationships that you've built and what you've accomplished through it. Talk to me about like the work as an entrepreneur. I want to talk to entrepreneurship route now. We go through ups and downs throughout. What do you think was some of your biggest struggles running the business? Because I know you're a mom of 2, right? 2 now?
Yeah. I got a 1-year-old and a almost 5-year-old. She's turning 5 in a couple weeks.
Yeah, mine are 5 and 3 now. So I definitely talk to me about like how was that as a mom and a business owner, doing those 2 things at once?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, having the isolation and daycare shut down, it gave me a lot of time to really see what I wanted in my life. And maybe some people watching could relate, like COVID kind of almost forced us to like go inside and like really look at our lives. And so, I did kind of realize that the way I was operating my business and living my life wasn't in total integrity to the priority. I always say family is my number 1 priority, and what I say doesn't always match what I do. And so I did realize I was living a bit out of integrity. And so that's been a big thing for me. It's just like making sure that I have enough time with my kids, that they feel good about it and I feel good about it. And that was really hard to do when I had 2 standalone locations working, 10, 12, 14-hour days, and getting home and not having much left to give anybody else. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is just finding that balance or harmony between family life, business, and personal self-care. That's probably my biggest struggle in life, even now. But it's a lot better now because I actually do have more time.
That's for sure. That's a lot of people's struggle, especially because if you have not only just 1 location, you had 2. It's like it is 2 separate businesses.
Yeah, totally.
As well as kids as well. I know your husband Patrick. Was he still in the business with you at this?
He was he actually went back to being. He was an engineer, and then about 6 years ago, Ironside Fitness was rocking it, and I needed some support, and so he actually quit engineering and joined me. And so for the last 6 years, we've worked together, co-owned the businesses. And then last summer, he actually went back to engineering. And part of that was there was quite an economic downturn in our city in Calgary, probably all across, probably affected you maybe. But being in a more stable, not that fitness couldn't be stable, but fitness is not the most easy business necessarily. And so, yeah, he went back to engineering last summer, and then he just kept his hand in a couple, helping me with marketing and kind of some of the things behind the scenes here and there. But yeah, so we had our time together, and then now we're pretty much not working together, which there's benefits to that for sure.
Let's get into that a little bit, because
Sure.
I don't know, for those that entrepreneurs that work with their husband and wife, like me and Julia, like we talk business because we actually both have our own separate businesses. But we talk business all the time. And like, but when you're working together, what did you find that were some of the biggest challenges working together as husband and wife?
I think just having really defined roles. That was something we struggled with early on, and we had to get really clear on like who was doing what, so there wasn't a lot of overlap and wasted energy and wasted time. And then just actually for knowing like what staff answered to which of us, because it was kind of confusing for people. And so that's probably business 101, which I did not take that course, but just having very defined roles and knowing the chain of command. So I think that was something that we finally did figure it out, but we probably could have refined it a lot more, and it would have been awesome to learn that earlier on. And then just like not always talking about work. So like sometimes we'll have to be like, okay, we're not talking about work tonight, because it was just all consuming. And even when you love something, you still need a break from it. So some nights we'd say, okay, this is not after 6 o'clock. We're not talking about Ironside Fitness.
That is huge. That is absolutely huge. That taking that break away from the business. So let's fast forward now. Unfortunately, years of putting into all this time into your brick and mortar business, you've now transformed and actually pivoted online. That's like the most overused word in the last little bit. Pivoted.
I shifted online.
How did you find that whole process, and how did your clients react to this?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, like I've been using Zoom technology and being online for different things I've been part of for years. So I was really like, I knew the technology and I liked it. And so as soon as we shut the doors of the studio, like we were mandated to close, the next day we were already, live streaming like 10 sessions a day, which was really overkill. But yeah, so it was a pretty like quick shift online, and I would say like 90% of the members were like all into it, and then 10% had no interest in even trying it. And so yeah, it was and a lot of people were just like, wow, this is awesome. Like it's a great alternative to being in person. And so yeah, pretty high adoption rate. And a lot of people are saying, well, eventually I want to get back in person, because like I miss the challenge of seeing someone nearby working hard, and that pushes me, or I like the hands-on from the coach, that kind of thing. But yeah, we do our best on the Zoom technology to kind of incorporate some, look around. You can see your friends on the little Zoom screens, and we do our best to make it really personal. So we're doing the best we can, for sure.
That's awesome. Very similar to how we run the sessions. So let me ask you, pros and cons on this. What do you like about it, and what do you don't like about online training?
Oh man, I love it. Like I love being able to be at home. There's no drive. I've saved hours and hours of commute time. Yeah, I love the energy. I love that I can impact more people at once. Because we had 2 locations, and then when we shifted online, people from both locations could join me or us. We have a couple other coaches also coaching still. And, things like I had a girl from Scotland join in, and I have friends from, Vancouver that are able to come and work out with me now. So that's been kind of fun. So that's a pro. I'd say cons is just really being able to dial in form with people is a little tougher online. And I'm a kind of, corrective exercise specialist, and I've done a lot of training in that, and kinesiologist. So I like really do care about the proper form. So I do my best to give form corrections. It's not as easy as in person though.
For sure.
Those are a few.
So you talk about like the work-life balance, and I think it doesn't just apply to you as a business owner with this whole new online program. Your clients too. They don't have the drive to the studio. They don't have that time to go there. be there on time for that class. They could do this all from home. That convenience factor is for both sides, I think. That's going to change the game. But I want to flip this over into you mentioned something. You're a corrective exercise specialist, but you realize, like, I think you talked about how like important nutrition and stress eating and avoiding those things. How big of a role is nutrition compared to the actual workouts? Because everybody's like, I want to get back in the gym, work out with somebody yell at me, but then they eat like garbage. Like,
yeah, I mean, I know for myself and everyone that I've coached, I would say nutrition, if you're talking about like body transformation or weight loss, nutrition is probably 80% of the game. And then, workouts and lifestyle, keeping your stress down, getting enough sleep, that's probably like 20%. And so the biggest bang for your buck if you're trying to lose weight is focusing on the nutrition, which I never liked to admit that before because I was a fitness coach and I didn't help people that much with nutrition. So I was like, just work hard. But I do see you can't out train your fork. And like, that's 100% true. And at the same time, for me, fitness isn't just about weight loss. It's about feeling great and being pain-free and, looking toned and moving well. So I always try to tell people it's not just about weight loss. We're not just trying to burn calories. There's such a bigger purpose, heart health, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So this plays into the idea of like body confidence and all that, right? Because, a lot of people that have gone through transformations, they may not, like I've had actually some clients who've lost the weight, but they still feel like fat. They feel fat still. Like, how do you address those types of issues with the confidence, even though you've lost the weight and you kind of go on that yo-yo back and forth?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you ever read the book Psycho-Cybernetics.
Yeah.
It's like a classic, and it's a plastic surgeon that talks about, he would literally do like massive reconstruction surgery on people's noses and stuff like that. And they would still look in the mirror after the surgery and still see the old nose. So it's like a mindset shift. It's almost like you have to let your mind catch up with your body. And so I think it's just like, take some retraining of your mind. And if you've always told yourself that you're fat and, you look terrible and you're really hard on yourself with your words, then even if you lose the weight, those words don't necessarily just go away like that. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I like to help work with people on their self-talk and retraining the mind to focus more on the positive. And it's definitely I think it's a mind game. It's an inside job more than even an outside job sometimes.
So what would you first, somebody who's lost the weight, transformed their life, but they go back, they look at themselves and they still think, look in the mirror and still think, I'm still fat. I still got this. I still got this. I still got this. What's the initial, what would be the first thing you would start saying to yourself to get over that?
Well, one part for me is like celebrating where you've come from, because a lot of people just are always looking forward and it's never enough. And so one thing I focus on with myself and my clients is like, we celebrate wins like crazy. Every tiny step, celebrate, because our brains are so good at focusing on what's not good enough. And so we have to actually like work to train them to be more positive. Celebrating.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just like the news that's going on. Everybody's focused on the negative. No matter anything positive right now, it's like,
yeah.
So, anyway, sorry, I just thought.
No, that's how our brains, it's sad, but our brains are more attracted to bad news. And so we have to, if we want to have a happy life and achieve these levels of success, we get to train our brains to be more positive. I get that all the time. I have a woman I'm coaching right now, and she's like almost at her goal weight, but now it's shifted and she's like, well, I have too much saggy skin. And it's like, okay, it's like, let's celebrate. And like, we can do our best to work on that. But and then what really came out of the picture was like, her self-talk was so mean. And so I'm like, let's work on your inner critic. Like, let's work on that, because no matter how much weight you lose, or even if you have a tummy tuck or whatever, you're still going to be mean to yourself. And so that's actually the root of it, not, oh, we just need to lose 5 more pounds. Because then if you lose the 5 pounds and you're still mean to yourself, it's never going to end. You're going to get to your deathbed and still hate yourself. And I do not want that for anybody.
Right. So it's just changing that internal dialogue of what they're saying about themselves. So I'm trying to dig with this one, but like,
Yeah, I like it.
what would be like the thing that like, do you talk mantras with them? Do you like, is it like a pump me up? Is it a pump me up from you as like messages? Like, do you
Yeah,
get some
well,
extra?
I mean, it's never going to be as powerful from the outside, but I mean, yeah, I think that helps. Like, well, this is what I notice about you, and this is what I think is awesome about you. But on a deeper level, like one exercise I like to give people is like, imagine there's a tape recorder in your head. And any time in the day you notice a thought that's negative, I want you to write it down. And like by the end of the day, they're like, holy crap, like that is gnarly. But they don't notice it unless you try to unless I ask them to bring awareness to it. It's just normal. It's automatic for them. And so we bring awareness to it, and then they look at the list and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been saying this to myself all these years. And then once they have awareness, then we can change. But if they don't have awareness, because it's just automatic, there's no power to change. So that's like one of the first things is just figuring out what are you saying. And for me, it was like, you're the fat sister, you're the human carburetor, you have thunder thighs. Like I had so many nasty thoughts, and it was no wonder that I could lose some weight, but then I always regain it, because what I really believed about myself was like, you're fat, you're thunder thighs, you're a human carburetor. And like, I was just fighting myself because my thoughts didn't align with what I wanted. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you bring awareness to it. It almost goes back. I don't want to oversimplify it, but like when somebody needs to lose weight, they got to weigh themselves initially so that they know where they're at. But you're going even deeper with the mindset issues. Like, what are you just saying to yourself?
Totally. And even like with losing weight, like, write it down. And then people will tell me, oh, you've probably had this. I eat so healthy. I'm like, okay, well, just write down what you eat for the next 3 days. Let's look at it. And then they're like, oh, well, I guess I don't eat as healthy as I thought. But in their mind, they're healthy eaters. But when you actually put it on paper, it's like, there's a lot of room for improvement. So awareness is like the best thing.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like I'm a clean eater. And then you look at their stuff and you're like, whoa, it's not too clean.
And maybe they thought it was clean, or maybe they just didn't know. But awareness is so good for all of us.
Love it. So I want to go back into one thing about you talk about stress eating, emotional eating. We just, I don't know if is Calgary still under quarantine right now?
Not like total like quarantine, like restaurants are reopening and stuff like that.
Starting to reopen.
Similar to Toronto.
Yeah, so similar to us. There's Toronto actually. A lot of places can't open, but we're a little bit north of Toronto in the suburbs, so starting to reopen. But people probably were emotional eating like crazy during this time,
including me.
I mean, you're at home, you're working at home. The refrigerator is right there. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be in the situation where they're going to be working from home for a little while now. Mm-hmm. What would be some strategies that you would suggest to clients, like if they did have that fridge right then and there, to prevent that emotional eating?
Yeah, this is a good question. Well, one is a little bit just more like setting yourself up for success, having an environment for success, and not necessarily never bring yummy stuff in the house. But if you know that you don't have willpower, maybe just stock your fridge with healthy food and don't have all the chips and stuff that that's your tendency to snack on. And maybe you'll go to the store and get it. But usually if it's not there, then you're not going to eat it. And if you desperately want it, you can go get it. But I know for me, if it's there, I just eat it because it's there. But if it's not there, then I'll eat something healthier. So that's just like a strategy. But I think one of my favorite tips, just is again, it comes back to awareness, is just asking yourself when you're at the pantry, am I hungry enough to eat broccoli? And if the answer is like, no, I just want a snack, then that's your little window of like, do I really need these chips, or could I go for a walk, or could I go lay down, have a quick 10-minute nap, or could I have a tea instead? So it's like just bringing a little bit of awareness so that you can make a better choice. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then you get a little bit of a chance to go, because usually it's just automatic. Okay, pantry, chips, it's 3 o'clock, I'm bored, and it breaks the pattern.
Sure. So it prevents, because if it's chips, it's carbs, it's easy calories for your body to just be like, I got that quick hit. Whereas you got to think, broccoli, it doesn't taste that good. It's gonna take a while for my body to break down
Yeah. And it's like you have to be really hungry generally, unless you're like a weird broccoli lover, but you actually have to be physically hungry to want broccoli, but you don't have to be physically hungry to want chips or cheesecake or wine or whatever. And so not saying those things you can never eat, but it's like just knowing your physical hunger. And one thing I just do is I'm like, okay, Charmaine, if you still want this in like 5 or 10 minutes, you can have it. But like, let's go do something different for 5 minutes. And usually I just forget about it. So that's
true.
another tip.
So true. I liked how you brought up if you're not hungry enough to go for a walk or nap, because you bring up something that like a lot of people don't that underestimate the ability of our body to burn calories from just activity, non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, just going for walks. How important of a role do you think that is for clients in their weight loss journey?
Like not
Just
like
going for walk.
weightlifting.
Yeah, going for just general activity, going for walks, taking a nap, getting extra rest. Like you
Yeah.
talked about it earlier about 20%. Like how much of that 20% would you say is that those lifestyle choices of activity and rest?
Mhm. Well, I mean, it could probably be, it depends on the person. I'd say that's kind of a general thing. I said 20%, but like I've actually had people come in who are like, okay, I'm sleeping 3 hours a night and I work 16-hour days and my stress is 10 out of 10. And I've literally turned them away. Like, I do not want you doing fitness on top of that. That's a disaster. You're already adrenally fatigued. You're already in cortisol overdrive. So I'm like, let's work on your nutrition and your sleep habits and your stress, and then you can start the workouts. But at the same time, like, go for a 10-minute nature walk. This would be amazing for you. I really think walking and being in nature is like just one of the best stress relievers out there. So I think it has so many benefits, maybe not so much from like the calorie burn perspective, but more from like reducing your stress. And when your stress comes down, you're less likely to stress eat. You're going to burn more calories naturally. You're not going to hold belly fat the same. And there's just so many benefits to that. But yeah, sleep, there's even books about sleep saying that like it's the miracle. Like if you've had trouble losing weight and you haven't been able to sleep 7 to 8 or 9 hours a night, maybe that's where you focus too, because some people underestimate the power of sleep.
Yeah, it's cool that where the fitness and wellness industry is going in that sense, because we went through the era of like crazy CrossFit hit workouts and people just killing themselves at the gym. But now we've kind of been shifting more into that wellness side of things, walking, stress, sleep, yoga, all those things that were always there, but everybody went so hard on one thing.
Totally.
So,
I like the balance. I'm really passionate about like, I don't know what your structure is, but like 3 really great workouts a week where it's like, I don't know, for me, it's 40 minutes or so. But then the other days, like go for a walk, do a little core workout, do something that brings you joy, paddleboard, go for a jog, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to kill your body every day. And a lot of people don't realize you do need rest to come back stronger and to keep seeing results.
I totally agree. I think it's just my clientele. They see Fight Fitness, they think super aggressive, but I am about like 3 workouts max. I don't go over an hour. 45 minutes is my sweet spot. And but I have clients that they just want to go on for an hour and a half, and they're wondering why they haven't been losing weight. And I'm just like, guys, listen, it's not about the volume.
Yeah, I think it's different if it's like you love it versus like I'm trying to burn more calories. And then it's like, well, if you're just trying to burn calories, let's focus more on the nutrition because that's where you're going to get the most results.
Yeah, so true, so true. So I want to go to self-sabotage now because you've had to deal with this, and you've been onto this yo-yo yourself about you've lost the weight, but you gain it all back. Because we have a lot of clients that have gone through transformations on their own, but right after, they kind of let loose and gain it all back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you do in those situations, or what would you do with clients in those situations?
Well, I think the biggest cause of self-sabotage is kind of like what you talked about earlier. It's like your mind hasn't caught up to your body. And so you still are acting like an overweight person. You're still thinking like an overweight person, even though you've lost the weight and you've had the discipline to do what it took to lose the weight. Maybe those habits haven't stabilized yet. And so when the program ends or the diet ends, you just kind of go back to how you were. So, I mean, one thing is a big more maintenance phase where you know, maybe work with a coach that's going to support you to make sure those habits are really dialed in. And then self-sabotage also, it's like a lot of people, like, they don't really see themselves as a successful fit person. So if they're still calling themselves like fat or lazy, or they're like, ha ha ha, like I just, you know, the weekends I always derail on the weekends, and they're saying all these things that aren't supporting their new self, then they're going to eventually just go back to the old person. So it's like upgrading our thoughts, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And you brought up another point about working with a coach ongoing. I get a lot of clients who's like, I'm going to do this on my own now, right after.
And then your heart breaks because you know that, even I know I need support to stabilize habits. And I always have a coach because, like, I'm never done learning and growing. And yeah.
It's crazy that, like, I heard this thing the other day too, like, as kids, like I know with my kid, it's like pulling teeth to get them to brush their, like, every night it's brush your teeth, every morning brush, like it's like they don't remember. And I've been telling this every single time. But then when we're adults, hopefully we've developed the habit of brushing our teeth.
That's
but
a good example.
With fitness clients, they do it for 21 days, 6 weeks, whatever the program is. And then they're like, I got this. When realistically, you've been doing this for 5-10 years, and you think in 21 days or 6 weeks, the habits are ingrained and you got this on your own. Like, I think some people are capable of it, but most aren't. I don't know what your opinions are on that.
Yeah, and I like those quick programs to jumpstart. And a lot of people are nervous, so then the quick program gets them to start. But I think, like, yeah, I always like to educate, like, this is a jumpstart. This is just the start of your journey, and try to get them to then right away see, okay, I've jumped in, I'm feeling good, but, like, let's commit to a longer program, because otherwise it's just going to be a yo-yo, and that's not why I'm in the business. But, you know, to get someone in the door, to hook them in the door, metaphorically or physically or whatever, you do have to have, like, a sexy 21-day slim down or 6 thing, because to be like, okay, let's sign up for a year today, that's not everyone's ready to do that unless they've kind of tasted what they can experience.
Absolutely. It's just, we have to sell outcomes in the fitness industry. That's just how it is. But once they get in, you talk about getting into the mindset, changing the habits, breaking all those things down so they actually do this for the rest of your life. Love it, Charmaine. All right. So one of my last and final questions. I love Kung Fu action movies. I don't know if you have a favorite Kung Fu action movie, but if you had a favorite, if you had a favorite movie that may represent your life or you could relate to, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. Favorite movie. Oh my gosh, you should have given me a pre. I'm like such a dork. I don't really like watch a lot of movies or anything like that. But yeah, one of my favorite movies of all time has Never Been Kissed. And it's just like that love story, and kind of like the geeky girl in the end gets her the love of her life, and yeah.
That's it. Also, Charmaine, thanks for being on this interview. If people want to learn more about you, and how would they reach out to you, or possibly even work with you?
Yeah, I mean, just add me as a friend on Facebook. On Instagram, I'm just Charmaine.Ironside. You can see as my name is spelled there. And yeah, reach out if you have any questions or anything like that. Need any support?
Love it, Charmaine. Thank you for being on the show and sharing your secrets on health, wealth, and being kick-ass. You are a ninja. Thanks, Charmaine.
It's so fun. Thank you.